So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to factor quadratic equations by completing the square. I have a procedure that I'm going to go through step by step to show you how to do it. So let's take a look at this one right here. This is a quadratic equation given 2x squared minus 16x plus 30 equals to 0. And we're solving for x. Okay, so first thing we have to do when solving this by completing the square is to rewrite the equation in the form of ax squared plus bx is c. So as you can see here, it's ax squared. This is your ax squared. This is your bx. And then this is your c. Now because your c is on the left side of the equal sign, we would have to move that to the right side of the equal sign because we want c to be on the right side of the equal sign. We're going to bring that over here. So to get rid of this positive 30, we would have to minus 30 to it. So it's going to look something like this. So 2x squared, take away 16x. And then when you minus 30 to this, you get 0. And then you get negative 30 on the other side. Okay, so that's step number 1. That's the first thing you need to do. Now, sometimes you're given equations like this, where you have ax squared plus bx is c. Okay, if that's the case, then you do not have to do step 1. Okay, you can just move away from step 1. Step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b and then square it and then add it to both sides of the equation. So half of negative 8 is going to be negative 4. Okay, and then we're going to square that. So negative 4 squared is going to give you 16. Okay, because it's negative 4 times negative 4. Okay, so after you get the 16, you're going to add that to the equation. Both sides of the equation. So x squared minus 8x plus 16 is negative 15 plus 16. So we're going to have x squared minus 8x plus 16 on the left hand side, and then on the right hand side is 1 because negative 15 plus 16 is 1. Okay, so that's step number 3. Step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. So this right here, okay, is a perfect square trinomial. So we are going to factor that into x. Okay, so x minus 4, because we need two numbers to multiply to get positive 16. And then when we add those two numbers, comes out to negative 8. So we need a negative 4 and a negative 4. Okay? So factor perfect square trinomial into x take away 4 times x take away 4. And then we're going to go ahead and rewrite that. Okay, because x take away 4 times x take away 4 is the same thing as x take away 4 squared. We went on and factored the perfect square trinomial. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Step 5 is to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so take the square root of this. Now we do it to this side, we got to do it to this side. Here, the square root takes out the square because we want to get the square to go away. So the square is going to take out this square root. So you're left with just x minus 4. And then square root of 1 is 1. But you're going to need to make this a plus or minus 1. And then you need to, when you take square root of 1, you get 1, but it's going to be plus or minus 1. So anytime you're getting rid of the square, because think about it, you can square 1, you get 1, but if you square negative 1, okay, you also going to get 1. So that's why you need that plus or minus. Okay, so you need a positive 1 and a negative 1. All right, so that's step number 5. And then step 6, last thing we have to do is solve both equations and then simplify. So we're going to break this up. Okay, so it's going to be x take away 4 is 1. Okay, and then the other one is x take away 4 is negative 1. Okay, because you got a positive 1 and a negative 1. And then when you solve this, you add 4, so you get 5 for this one. And then here you add 4, so add 4, and then add 4. So negative 1 plus 4 is going to give you 3. Okay, so those are your two answers. X can be 5 or x can be 3. So that's how you solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Let's take a look at another one. Here we have 4x squared. Take away ax is negative 3. This is a quadratic equations because of the x squared. And we're going to solve this by completing the square. And we have a procedure of how to do that. So let's take a look at step number 1. So step 1, we need to rewrite as ax squared plus bx is c. Well, if you look at this, okay, you have ax squared, and then you have bx right here, and then is c. So we do have ax squared plus bx equals to c. So step 1 is done. We do not have to move anything around. Step 2 is to divide both sides by a. So it becomes ax squared plus bx equals to c. So what is your a? Well, we've been saying ax squared. So the a is the coefficients of x squared. So we're going to have to divide everything by what a is, and a is 4. So we're going to divide this by 4, and then we have to divide this by 4, and then we have to divide this by 4. Let's go on and simplify this. So here 4 over 4 is 1, so those cancel out. So you're left with x squared, take away 2x, and then here you have negative 3 over 4. Because 4 cannot go into 3 exactly. So we'll keep it as negative 3 over 4. Step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b. Okay, and then we square it, and then we add that to both sides of the equation. So half of b, half of negative 2 is negative 1. And then when we square negative 1, okay, we're going to get 1. All right, so 1 is the number that we need to add to both sides of the equation. So it's going to look something like this. X squared, take away 2x, plus 1. Okay, and then on the right hand side, you have negative 3 over 4. Plus 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this where I'm going to simplify what's on the right hand side. So x squared minus 2x plus 1 is, now on this side you have negative 3 over 4 plus 1. So that is the same thing as saying taking negative 3 over 4 plus 4 over 4. Right? Because 4 over 4 is 1, but you need common denominator in order to add fraction. So you're left with just 1 over 4. Okay, so this side right here is going to be 1 over 4. Step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. So we're going to factor this. This is your perfect square trinomial. So we're going to need 2 binomials, right? Factor this into 2 binomials. We need an x and an x. Okay, we need factors of 1. 2 numbers multiplied to get 1, but when you add those 2 numbers, comes out to -2, so we're going to need a -1. So we are going to need a -1 and then a -1 is 1/4. Okay, and then I'm going to rewrite, and then I'm going to rewrite this as x take away 1 square. Okay, and then it's 1/4. Step 5 is to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to take square root of this and then also square root of this. So the square is going to take out the square root. Okay, so square root is gone and then the square is gone. So you're left with x minus 1 is, don't forget plus or minus. Here we take square root of 1 is 1. Okay, and then square root of 4 is 2. Last thing we have to do is to solve both equations and simplify. So we're going to split this up into 2 equations. One of them is going to be x minus 1 is positive 1/2. And then the other one is going to be x minus 1 is negative 1/2. Okay, and then we solve each one to get our 2 final answers here. All right, so here when you add 1 to this, so x is, when you add 1, it's like adding 2/2 because you need that common denominator. So that's going to give you 3/4. And then when you add 1 to this, it's like adding 2/2 because you need that common denominator. So you're left with 1/2. All right, so x is 3/4 or positive 1/2. And that's how you solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Again, we're solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So here we have 3x squared, take away 30x is 69. Okay, we have a procedure of how to solve this step by step. So let's go ahead and take a look at step number 1. So first thing we need to do is rewrite as ax squared plus bx is c. So let's take a look at this equation here. So here we have ax squared plus bx, and then we have equals to c. So this is all set. We do not have to move anything around. As you can see, again, ax squared plus bx is c. Now, if the c here was on the left-hand side, then you would have to move it on to the right-hand side. So your c has to be on the right-hand side. Let's take a look at step 2. Now, step 2 is to divide both sides by a. So we're going to divide everything by a to get rid of the coefficients of x squared. So here it's ax squared. So you can see that a is the coefficients of x squared. So your a here is 3. So we're going to go ahead and divide everything by 3 to get rid of the leading coefficient. So divide this by 3. Then we're going to have to do here, divide by 3, and then divide your c by 3. Okay, and then we go ahead and simplify. So 3/3 cancels out. So you're left with just x squared minus, now here 3 goes into 30 10 times. So you're left with 10x. And then 3 goes into 69 is 23 times. Now step 3 is to complete the square by taking half of b and then square it and then add it to both sides of the equation. Okay, so we have to take half of b. So as you can see, here's your b. Your b is negative 10. So we're going to take half of negative 10. Well, half of negative 10 is negative 5. Okay, and then we're going to square negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25 because negative 5 times negative 5 give you 25. Okay, so when you take half of b and square it, you get 25. Okay, so what do we do with the 25? We're going to add that to both sides of the equation. So it's going to look like this. X squared, take away 10x, plus 25. Notice I'm adding 25 to the left. And then on the right side, I have 23 plus 25. As you can see, I'm adding 25 to left and right. We're going to go ahead and clean this up. So I have x squared, take away 10x, plus 25 on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, I have 23 plus 25. And that is going to give me 48. Step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. So here you have a perfect square trinomial. We're going to go ahead and factor that. So we're going to factor the trinomial into two binomials. Okay, so this is an easy one to factor because to get x squared, you need an x times an x. Now you have to come up with factors of positive 25. Two numbers multiplied to get 25. But when you add those two numbers, it comes out to negative 10. So you're going to need two negative numbers. Okay, and you need a negative 5 and a negative 5. Because negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. And a negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 10. And we're going to rewrite this as x take away 5 square. It's the same thing. Okay, we're doing this so we can take the square root of it to get rid of the square. And then here is 48. Okay, so that's step 4. Step 5 is to take square root of both sides. So to get rid of the square, we want to get rid of the square here. We're going to have to take square root of it. Now if you do square root on the left, you got to do square root on the right. Now the square root takes away the square because they're opposite. So the square root takes away the square. And you're left with just x take away 5. And then over here, you need plus or minus. Now, square root of 48 is not a perfect square, so we're just going to keep it like that for now. All right, last thing we have to do is solve equations and simplify. So we're going to solve this. So to get the x by itself, right, you would have to add 5. So to get x by itself, you add 5. Now if you add 5 to the left, you got to add 5 to the right. So you get 5 plus or minus square root of 48. And then you're going to have to simplify square root of 48. Okay, we're going to break it down to simplest form. So square root of 48. Okay, we want to break this up. To simplify, you have to break this up into where one is a perfect square. So how about we pick square root of 16 times square root of 3. Because 16 times 3 is 48. So what is square root of 16? Well, that is going to be 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. And then square root of 3 cannot come out from the radical sign, so it stays inside. All right, so square root of 48 is the same thing as 4 square root of 3. So here is 4 square root of 3. Okay, as you can see, now you can also split this up if you want to, because one of them is a positive and the other one is a negative 4 square root of 3. Okay, so whichever way is correct, but this is just a longer way of writing out your answers. All right, and that's how you solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Okay, so I hope you guys find these examples helpful. Well, this is the one way that you can solve quadratic equations. There's other ways that you can use to solve it, and I'm going to do more videos on different ways to solve it. My next video is going to be solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you find it helpful. And if you like it, please help share and subscribe down below. Thank you, and I'll see you guys again.